All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. Today we've got another smartphone to talk about. Kind of a unique smartphone, not one that I don't see many people talking about. There's been reviews of it, but it's kind of, unless you kind of know about it, it's easy to miss it. And it is the RedMagic 10 Pro. So this is it right here. This is RedMagic 10 Pro. Now, right off the bat, you can tell this is kind of a funky design, right? And that's because if you're not familiar with RedMagic is a gaming focused smartphone. The whole idea about the smartphone is gaming, like to really just up your mobile gaming performance, take it to the next level, if you will. And it's a sub-brand of the company Nubia. So you might have heard of Nubia smartphones before. They've been around for a while. ZTE, if anybody remembers the ZTE phones from several years ago? That was all the same company. And RedMagic, they started doing gaming phones. I mean, this is the 10th one, so they've been doing them for a while now. And they're getting better and better. So there's only two gaming specific phones that are really sold anymore. And it's the ROG phone from Asus, and it's the RedMagic phone from RedMagic. So the ROG phone from Asus, you'll notice I don't have one to compare because they're crazy expensive. They're like $1,500, $1,800, and it's going to be almost exactly the same specs, just a slightly different design. So first, let's start with the design. As you might notice, a little more boxy design, right? It's perfectly square, or rectangle, I should say, but the corners are squared off. Now it doesn't hurt too bad. Like they're not super sharp, but you do feel them. And you know, so it's not the most comfortable design in the world, but it's not terrible, right? Because it's designed for gaming. So as you can see, it's kind of got this cool little pattern on the back here. I don't know if you can see that. And then when you are gaming, let me see if I can turn on a game real quick. When you are gaming, there's some lights and stuff that light up, which is really fun. Well, you can do that. There you go. So as you can see, you got the little lights, the RGB lights that come on right there. And then this is the coolest part. This is actually a fan. So this is I don't know if you can see it in here, but it's a little bitty tiny fan. So you can feel it right here, but it's a little bitty tiny fan. You can see the RGB in there. And the cool thing about that is obviously it keeps it cool. But it's a fan, and so it's designed to allow you to game longer and be able to play, you know, the top tier, the bigger games, the more intense games for longer without having too much hit on your performance or your battery life or things like that. So that's the fan there. That's what that's for. The other cool, really unique design language, aside from the headphone jack, which is kind of unique. You don't see that much anymore. USB-C port on the bottom, speakers, all that kind of stuff, is you'll see a couple other things up here on this side, right? At first, you'll see up here, all right, there's one, and then down here, there's another one. Those are touch sensitive shoulder triggers, right? So it's essentially like almost like a built-in controller for your phone, right? So you've got these touch sensitive controller pads, the shoulder buttons up here, these shoulder triggers. So if you're playing like Call of Duty Mobile, right, or PUBG or something like that, right? You could have your left one to be your zoom in and your right one to be your fire, right? Or however you want to set it up. So how it basically works is the software kind of overlays your touch onto a button, so you can point to the target. You can basically say, hey, recognize this area as a touch target on the screen when I push this trigger, right? So it's essentially using the software in the phone to kind of add an extra touch onto the screen. So it works really well, and they work really fantastic. They're super high refresh rate or touch sampling rate on the buttons. They're pretty amazing. So they've had these for several years now, and I really like them. And then you can see another kind of fun design feature. Let's see if it'll focus. There we go. Kind of see with the light. The power button is this little circular button right here, which makes it easy to turn it off. You know which one it is. And then this right here is a slider button. So similar to what OnePlus does as an alert slider, you can set this as an alert slider, but by default, it turns on what's called game space. And that's just the company's proprietary software that they've put on the phone to, like, once you turn it on, it kind of locks the phone into this game space, blocks your notifications, ups your processing speed, ups your GPU performance, all that kind of stuff, gives you the higher refresh rate screen, all those kinds of things. And it just kind of like turns you into this game. So it's sort of like turning on your console, right? You turn that on and you're in console, you're in gaming mode, right? But you can't customize it to do several different things. So I really like that button there. Rounding off the design Again, you'll see it's totally square up front. But another thing, I don't know if you caught it earlier. So that right there is the camera, but when it goes away, all right, so you saw it had the little animation when it's trying to find my face on the front screen, but it went away. So you can't really see, there is a camera under there, but it's hidden underneath the display, right? So they've developed this kind of technology where it's this seamless looking display. You don't see the camera when you're looking at the phone. Now, as you might be wondering, yes, it translates to absolutely terrible selfies. The selfies in this phone are not good, but the camera is mostly there to act as a face unlock. And in a pinch, if you have to do a video call or you really need to take a selfie or something like that, you can use it for that. But it's not great, but it's not designed to be. It's designed to give a perfectly seamless experience, and this is the best version they've ever made. So on some of the other ones, it was pretty visible. You could see it was really light. You can kind of sort of barely see it here. Sorry, I'm not doing good. It's hard to look at this backwards. You can kind of sort of see it's a little faded right there, but for the most part, you can't tell, right? You don't know that the camera's behind there. Samsung does this on the Folds, or they tried it one of the first couple of years and it just didn't work out great. So they keep doing it, and they've done it better and better every year. Again, don't expect great selfies because the camera quality is just bad, but that's not what it's for. So that's kind of the really cool parts about the design. It is a little bit heavier than you might notice, but that's to be expected, right? There's a lot of extra stuff going on here. There's some extra cooling and thermals and all those kinds of things going on. There's a massive 7,050 milliamp hour battery, so that's fun. And all those things just add up to the weight. It's a really, really nice metal design, which is pretty cool. And so I really like it. Oh, I lost my spec sheet here. But yeah, so it feels, it's heavier than most other smartphones. It's not uncomfortable to use, but you pick it up, you feel it, right? You feel the quality in there. Let me touch one more second on the display. Again, I touched on it a little bit. So the display is, I believe, is 6.7 inch, 6.8 inch. I don't know. It's big, and it's a 1.5K display is what they call it. Gets up to 2,000 nits of brightness, which is pretty good. And it's 144 hertz refresh rate, which is one of the highest we've seen. Most companies, for a while there, they were trying to push the hertz. And like, I think actually in one of the RedMagic phones, it might have been the 7 or the 8, it actually peaked at like 165 hertz. But then they realized they didn't need to go that high. So they kept it to 144 to keep, save battery life, keep costs down, all those things. So from a design standpoint, I really like it. I'm kind of a sucker for unique designs, especially for kind of sci-fi, cool, fun-looking designs, things like that. Oh, another interesting feature, if you didn't notice, it's completely flat. There's no table rock. It's not going to wobble on a table. The whole thing is completely flat, right? So that's a really cool, like, I didn't appreciate that as much as I thought I would until I went back to a phone that has massive table rock, right? So it's actually really nice having a completely flat phone on the table. It also is great for gaming, if you're just setting it down to game. So I really like that. Like I said, from a design standpoint, I kind of like it. It definitely makes a statement. People are going to notice it. People are going to ask you, what phone is that? And it's kind of cool. My favorite is, they sent me the black one, but they do have a white color, which is really nice. And then they have like a translucent color, which is similar to the design of the 8. So this is the RedMagic 8 Pro. I got this one a couple years ago, and then they have a design like this where it's more translucent on the back. But this also gets you higher specs too. So if you opt for the fancier design, you get better specs. Speaking of that, let's talk over specs real quick. The base model, which is of the 10 that I have right here, you've got 12 gigabytes and 256. You can bump that up to 16 gigabytes and 512 gigabytes of storage, or you can top it out at 24 gigabytes of RAM with a terabyte of storage if you really want to go all out. But to be honest, that configuration of 24 gigabytes, 1 terabyte of storage is $1,000. That may seem like a lot of money, but compare that to any other smartphone on the market, right? There's, in the US at least, and in most countries that aren't China or Asia, you can't buy a phone that has those specifications, especially not for $1,000. The OnePlus 13 that just came out has tops out at 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage, and that model is $1,000 full retail, but it's actually only $900 right now because they're offering a decent promo for it. So the fact that that even exists is pretty impressive. And then the 16 gigabyte 512 version of either just dusk, which is sort of like a translucent black, or the moonlight color that I showed you a minute ago, that's only $799. So you're saving $200 right there. And then the 12 gigabyte 256 gig, which it comes in the black that you see here, or the white, is only $649. $650 for getting 12 gigabytes of RAM, 265 gigabytes of storage, 140 hertz refresh rate, 1.5K display, the shoulder triggers, the design, and I didn't even tell you what processor it's running. This is the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, the same processor that just came out in the OnePlus 13 in the Galaxy S25 series. That package, $650, you can't find anywhere. That's impressive. It also comes with fast charging. So it does, I think it's actually higher than 65 watt. It used to be just 65 watt fast charging, but it might have actually gone higher than that. Like I said, I don't have the spec sheet in front of me. I had it up and then it disappeared randomly, so I don't know where it is. But you get fast charging too. So you're not limited to the 45 watts or the 25 watts or the 30 watts or whatever it is that everybody else is doing, with the exception of a few small ones. So I'm a big fan of that. I think that's great. So we've talked about the design. Now, of course, it's not perfect, right? This phone is designed mainly for one thing, and that's gaming. We talked about that, right? So in order to give you this super incredible performance and this really cool design, they had to compromise in a few areas. The biggest area of compromise from a hardware standpoint is going to be the cameras. I mentioned that with a selfie camera. Take that same mindset into the main cameras. They're not great, okay? They will service in a pinch. They will get the job done if you really need to take a picture of something, and you can get halfway decent pictures if you've in the right lighting and you frame it right and you kind of know what you're doing. You can get a decent picture, and which is fine in most cases for just texting or posting somewhere. But none of these photos are going to blow your mind. And the camera is not a reason to get this phone. But they know that. They're not trying to sell you a fantastic camera. They're trying to sell you an incredible gaming experience, which is what this phone provides in spades. If you are a mobile gamer, even a halfway serious mobile gamer, you need this phone, especially because it's only $650, right? And you can even go so that you can almost get a second phone, right? You can have this be your second phone if you're a mobile gamer. Because that's actually how this kind of got started. When gaming smartphones started to become a thing over in the States, I got really curious. I didn't know why the big deal, right? I've got a console. Why would I want a game on a 7-inch screen or a 6.8-inch screen when I've got my big TV with my console? And I learning more about the industry, discovered that for most places that are not Western countries, like Europe and North America and things like that, they kind of skipped over the whole console and PC gaming thing. Some of them have them, but most people who do any sort of gaming, they have their main smartphone, but then their console is a gaming phone, is another smartphone designed for gaming. So a lot of them don't have consoles or dedicated PCs. They game on their phones, which makes a lot of sense. And the more I game on my phone, the more I realize I like it, especially when you can get AAA style titles like Call of Duty Warzone, Genshin Impact, games like that on your phone that you can take literally anywhere, anytime, any place, especially if you got a good 5G connection. It kind of like, why not, right? It makes a whole lot of sense, especially if you throw a controller on it, like a Backbone controller, or my personal favorite, the ELO Vagabond controller, links below. Those are just... It just adds to the gaming experience so much more. So back to what I was saying, cameras, you're not buying this phone for the cameras. They will work in a pinch. Not much to talk about. I'll throw up a few samples, but they're not great, but they know that, you know that. Know what you're getting into. Don't buy this phone for the cameras. Will it work when you need it to in a pinch? Sure. Other than that, don't bother. The other thing we need to talk about, which is a little bit more of a sticking point and a little bit more of an issue, is the software. They try to run a fairly clean version of Android, and when you open it up, it kind of is a decently clean version of Android. But the second you start poking around a bit, it kind of falls apart. not in the sense of it stops working, but it starts to get this kind of, they go a little too hard in the sci-fi aesthetic theme and stuff like that. And they haven't really updated their software in a few years. Luckily, this one, the 10 Pro, is running Android 15. So there's that going for them. But don't expect much in the realm of long-term software support. I think my 8 is only on 14, and that was just recently. Like, I don't expect any further updates beyond that, right? They've not said anything about long-term software support or anything like that. So don't expect a lot there. You can put launchers on here, which sort of cleans it up a little bit. But other than that, you know, the software is one of the biggest sticking points too. It's just, it's kind of annoying. So if none of those things really bother you, like I said, I didn't notice too many kind of crazy bugs or anything that really concerned me about the software. It was just, it's a gaming phone. So if you are using it as a daily device, you might need to spend a little bit extra time putting some launchers on there, maybe some new icon packs, just kind of clean it up, make it look a little better, run a little smoother. If you're buying it as a secondary device or as purely as a mobile gaming device that can also get data and all those kind of things, then yeah, to me, I don't have any issues getting it. And if none of those sticking points bother you, it's a fantastic device. It runs circles around almost every other phone that I've got, and it's tuned specifically for gaming, right? So even against the OnePlus 13, like, there's still a noticeable performance bump on the RedMagic 10 Pro. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now. That's been it for the RedMagic 10 Pro. If you like it, let me know. Let me know if you like it in the comments. Let me know if you even care about gaming phones. If you're interested in gaming phones, if that's something you want to hear more about, or even mobile gaming in general. If you want to hear more about maybe mobile gaming controllers or things like that, I'm happy to dive into that either way. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much for spending some time with me. We'll see you again soon.